Hi, good morning. Doing a series of some informational videos on how to care for feral cats. My township is actually looking to establish some feral cat colonies and start taking care of our community cats. So I figured that making videos would be the easiest way to help give people some tips, or at least things that I do. And I would have saved myself in hours of phone calls this week, video calls with people, showing them my setup. I wanted to cover shelters. There's actually two other videos. I'm sorry, I'm freezing. It's cold. It's November. It's the end of November. It's the Sunday after Thanksgiving, so it's freezing here in the Northeast in South Jersey. So, and it's cold here today, and the wind just picked up. But I have every type of shelter imaginable out here, because I have some feral cats who have become quite friendly to the point where I can pet them and they need me to stand there with them while they eat. Social eaters, they're called. And then I have some feral cats that are scared to death of me and won't come anywhere near the property if they see me out here. So I actually have several different types of shelter set up. I thought it would be cool to do a quick video, and I will attach links in the comment section to Alley Cat Allies. They give you lots of ways to make do-it-yourself cheap shelters. The first one I'm going to show you is the standard Rubbermaid, and I have to fix my awning on this one, so I might have to put the phone down for a second. The standard Rubbermaid container shelter, and it's used with an 18-gallon Rubbermaid container, and it's insulated on the inside with styrofoam. And it's a do-it-yourself project, and I'm not very handy, and I was able to get 2 of these done, so it's got to be easy. And all you really need is a measuring tape, styrofoam, a Rubbermaid container, an X-Acto knife or a box cutter with a really sharp blade on it, and some straw. And it's very important that I note that you want to use straw and not hay and not any kind of blankets or bedding, because as soon as they get cold enough to freeze, the cat will freeze to them, and I have heard of that happening before. And also they retain moisture, so even if it's above freezing and they get wet, the cat will only get colder laying on them, whereas straw repels moisture. So unless it gets soaked, it's going to stay dry, and it also dries out more quickly than hay, and it doesn't form mold like hay. So with that being said, this is one of the standard Rubbermaid container shelters, and I'm going to pan around and make sure I see it. Okay. I actually put a little awning on this, and I have to fix it real quick. I have to put the phone down for 1 second. Let me fix this, because I don't get out here too often. And it's still not fixed right. But anyway, I put a little awning on this, but underneath is the regular Rubbermaid 18-gallon container. And I'm going to try to get inside and show you. Nobody has used this one yet. I think it's too close to the house and I need to move it further back. But I cut a hole out, and I forget what measurements that I used, but again, I'm going to attach a link to Alley Cat Allies, and they will tell you. But I do have a 13-pound Maine Coon cat in my house, and I cut the hole out, and I made sure I lured her in with treats to make sure that she would fit into it, because she's a pretty big girl. So I figure that if Penny, my 13-pound Maine Coon, can fit into that opening, then any feral cat can fit into the opening. So I had the inside lined with styrofoam, and again, I'll attach the link, and I just measured out the styrofoam and cut it with my X-Acto knife. And then I had the styrofoam secure in there, and if you notice that I actually put duct tape around the opening, because I'm not very handy and the plastic was a little jaggedy, and I didn't want a cat getting cut trying to get in here, so that protects them from the jagged edges that are left when you're not very handy and you're a sloppy cutter. So, and then I just filled the inside with straw. I don't know if you can see, I have a lot of straw in here, and I actually pushed it back a little in the center and burrowed it, so that way they can burrow themselves in there, because straw and the styrofoam actually work like a nice protector. And then I took from an old Rubbermaid container that we weren't using anymore, I took the lid off of that and kind of made it an awning, and then I secured it with a cinder block, or half a cinder block actually, on top. Now I had this one sitting on a platform so that when we get snow, it's kind of elevated off the ground a little bit. But because it's metal it doesn't really provide any insulation, but I do have styrofoam in the bottom of this shelter as well. So, and then whenever it snows, I just make sure that you're going to take a walk with me to my next station. I make sure that I come shovel it out in case anybody's using it, but that one I'm actually going to have to move because nobody's using it. And I have 3 ferals out here that I don't know if they have shelter or not. I assume they do because, as you see, my neighbors, they have an old camper sitting there. I'm in Acco in the woods, and there's plenty of opportunities for shelter for these cats. And they actually use the leaves that kind of accumulate under the campers and the trailers and stuff as insulation too. So feral cats out here have it pretty good. So this is another type of shelter that I have. And this is actually, I got this off of Chewy.com. It's by K&H Pet Products. And it's actually a heated shelter, but this one's not heated. This is the K&H A-frame house. But I took the heating pad that came with it out, and I actually had that in my shed, and I'll show that to you as well. And I had that filled with straw too. And I have it under a pretty dense pine tree. I don't know if you can see it because of the way the sun glare is hitting. But the reason why I have it tucked under there is because when it snows, there's going to be less snow on the ground at this point. And you can see that somebody's been using this. It's actually one of my friendly ferals that likes to come lying in here sometimes at night. Even though he has a heating pad and he has straw in the shed. But that's another story. He likes this one and he goes into this. And what I like about this is that it has a back door. So yes, drafts come through. But it's been my experience with my feral cats that they don't like to be trapped anywhere where they can't escape. And so that's why that has 2 doors. And I'll include a link to the K&H products on Chewy.com too. That's where I bought all my heated bowls and that A-frame shelter. Now this is a shelter I actually use for food. And this was a dog house that was on display at PetSmart, and because it was a display model, we got a big discount. But cats, they will not sleep where they eat. So I use this for food, and that's my feral Oreo making an appearance. He actually used to be very feral, but now as you see, he's cuddling up to me because he knows that I have treats in my pocket for him. But this is Oreo making his big YouTube debut. Say hi, Oreo. He's actually the protector of the property. He was a protector to my kittens. He's a protector to any new cats that come here that he says can live here. So I actually use that one for feeding. And now I have to give Oreo treats so that he'll let me walk. Bear with me one second. I'm sorry. This is why I carry treats around. I can't get a damn thing done outside with some of these cats. So I give him some treats and give him a pet in that way. Because if not, he'll just zigzag in front of my legs as I'm attempting to walk. He does it all the time. So now this, I can't get too close to this setup because my one feral cat, and he's kind of sort of feral. He'll get scared if I get too close unless I'm feeding him. But this is actually set up under my steps, and I'm going to show you now. I have an overhang on the back of my house. I'm not sure if you can see it because of the sun shadow, but yeah, you can see it there. I have an overhang here, and I have steps. So this area stays relatively dry, and this would be the only way that I would say to use one of these. It's been my experience that my feral cats don't like to be enclosed in areas where they can't see out. So, and I see that a lot of people's feral cats will not use the Rubbermaid houses. So if you have a setup where you can back it up to like a solid wall and you have an overhang to protect it from the elements, you can set up a clear container. And this was actually a, I don't know what size tote that is. It might be a 30-gallon from BJ's. I bought it. The brand is called Bella. And as you see, I made like an overhang, if you can see that, with the lid. And I used duct tape, and it's got like a little 2.5-pound weight on it. And there's actually a K&H Pet Products heating pad inside. The heating pad that's in this one is actually the one that came with that A-frame house. And what's nice about this is that when Orange, that's just a feral cat that lives under my steps here, when Orange wants to go in there to warm up, he can lay in there. The heating pad will warm up his whole body. It's thermostatically controlled, and again, I'll attach links to all of this in the comments. But it doesn't emit any heat unless pressure is being applied to the heating pad, so it doesn't use a lot of electricity at all. And then I just backed up some leaves to it to provide insulation for really cold nights, and I'll actually put a few more. But if you notice, I'm still leaving a spot for him to be able to look around. He's a very timid, docile cat, so he needs to be able to look around and see if any predators are coming. And you'll see at night when the skunks come to eat his leftover food, he'll actually jump up on the steps and sit in our window until the skunks are done eating, or the opossum that comes. So that's a different type of shelter. Then I have a pet kennel that I actually used to rescue a geriatric stray that came to me about 1.5 years ago. But if you see, I have it wrapped, and I can't tell with the sun glare, but I have it wrapped in plastic. And then I created another little overhang. I actually have Orange's litter box in there, and that's another story for another day. But with that, I'm not sure. I mean, any shelter's better than none, and they can still see out. But again, I would only use that in an area that's fully protected from, or at least partially protected from the elements. Again, that's under the overhang. So then I have what I like to call Disney World North for my friendly ferals. I have another one of those right here. I have it under the grill, so it's somewhat protected by the elements. I use that to take the